cloudy start for most of us, and the showery rain is likely to continue throughout the afternoon. It'll be drier and brighter in the south of the region, though, with dry, clear spells expected tonight. The highs today, 15 Celsius.
Have lunch with Allan Beswick. BBC Radio Manchester.
Do you remember Have Gun Will Travel? What was his name? He was just called Have Gun Will Travel. I think he was a hired gunslinger in a cowie. I get told off for calling them cowies. But they are, aren't they? The cowies, that's what we call them. Oh, filmer on the pictures, going to Queen's, what's on? A cowie! Anyway, Have Gun Will Travel. Don't remember his name. It was in black and white, not his name. Well, I suppose it was as well, yeah. I can't remember the colour of his hat, so I've no idea whether he was a goodie or a baddie. I know he had a moustache, but we won't hold that against him. He did, he had a little thin moustache. Did they call it a pencil moustache? They might have done. What was his name? That's going to annoy me now. Have Gun Will Travel. Fabulous. I think that was his advertising thing. That was his slogan. He had a slogan. Oh, yes, he had a slogan. Have Gun Will Travel, that's a slogan, that. Have Piles Will Stand. If it's all the same to you. Yeah, oh dear, dear, dear. Hey, what about this rock then, the Fukang rock? There's so many gags. I don't think it's got Fukang written all the way through it. No, I don't think I will. They're too obvious, aren't they? They're just too obvious to do. Who named it that? Did you not have any understanding of English? It's like when you buy a chocolate bar, or you export a chocolate bar to another part of the world, and it's called... I won't pick on one that's called something, because that would be cruel and possibly libelous, and it's not worth it for a really poor gag that I've somewhat overplayed my hand already on. But it's like if you export a chocolate, you know, you're buying a choc round here called Choco Drop. Do you know what I mean? Choco Drop. And you export it, and when it gets to where it's being exported, somewhere in South America, Choco Drop means turd lump or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I... Ooh, Paladin. Paladin. And he was played by Richard Boone. Was he? No, I think Richard Boone... Didn't he play Davy Crockett? I suppose he could have played both. Paladin? What sort of a name's that?
Back from the good life on the Costa del Crime.
Well, there's only so much sun, sea and sangria one can manage.
Two former felons find old habits hard to break.
I'm the best safecracker this country has ever produced.
There isn't a car I can't drive, or an alarm I can't silence.
When they're tempted by one last job.
You're Maurice Riley, you're Sid Woolsey, you're the Invisibles.
The Invisibles.
You never lose it.
Catch them, if you can, tonight at 9 on BBC One.
Local elections are underway. Have you been to vote yet? Have you? Oh, I don't care what you voted. No, it's none of my business. But have you been? Are you going? Are you not going to bother? Are you one of them lazy dogs that sat at home and did it by post? That'll be all right. I could win the election by post. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we here, all of us, everybody... in this business, we get fewer and fewer letters. Because, of course, you can email now, or you can text, or even if you pushed, you can... Actually, I'll give you the details so you know how to do it. 0161 228 2255. You see, you can send a phone call. Send a phone call. You make a phone call, and we can have a chat. Or you could send a text on 07786206951. And you could have a sort of... one-ended, somewhat stilted chat, or an email, and that's radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. You see, these are all the methods of communication that are available, so we get very few written communications, which is interesting. I think they left it a bit late to bring in the postal vote, didn't they, really? You know, you can have a postal vote now that the postal system is creaking at the seams and slowly dying on the vine, as it were. But there you are, I guess it's the way. Oh, here we go. His name was Paladin. The show followed the adventures of Paladin, a gentleman-turned-gunfighter. Oh, it was played by Richard Boone. Oh, and by John Dana on the radio. I didn't know it had been on the radio. And he preferred to settle problems without violence, yet, when forced to fight, excelled. Paladin lived in the Carlton Hotel in San Francisco, where he dressed in semi-formal wear, ate gourmet food, and attended the opera. In fact, many who initially met him mistook him for a dandy from the East. That's a great word, isn't it? A dandy. Actually, we've just had Andrew Russell in. Turns out he's a bit of a dandy. Yes, you have a look tonight. If you watch the election broadcast tonight, Andrew Russell's on it, who was just talking to Heather, and got all the beauty treatment questions right, which tells you everything you want to know about him. He's a bit of a dandy. Anyway, when working, we're back with Richard Boone now, or Paladin, not Andrew Russell. When working, he dressed in black, and he used calling cards and wore a holster which carried characteristic chess knight emblems. And he carried a derringer under his belt. A derringer was a dead little gun. A derringer. He had a derringer under his belt. So there you are. That's everything you need to know now about Have Gun, Will Travel. I know. It's a learning curve. Life is a learning curve. It's the same for me. Very much the same for me. A paladin is a holy warrior, says Kevin. Is it? I thought it was one of them sandwiches you got in Italian shops where they squash it and toast it. I thought that was a paladin. A panini. Oh. All right. It was a... Ah, Gordon, you are a gentleman, sir. He says, I was thinking of voting, but then I noticed you weren't standing. Isn't that nice? That's a lovely thing to say. We're very grateful to you for your for your thoughts. Yeah, we like that. 0161 228 2255. Here's a good... I don't know the answer to this. You'd think, in the age of technology, in this age of technology, that somebody would produce a radio and or television that was voice-activated, so you'd be able to program it to switch to mute when certain words are spoken, like McCann. Well, that'd be a good word. Hey, it's not my suggestion. Stop it. I've changed from being sympathetic to indifferent to sick of hearing about it. In fact, I now wish the parents would disappear without trace. You could also program it for muting words like football, celebrity chef, royal. No, you'd want to know when one of them's dead, wouldn't you? Climate change, just to mention a few. In fact, I think I may just use the off button. Well, that's your prerogative, but it sounds very harsh to me, if I may say so. But on the subject of climate change, we can stop worrying for 10 years, which is brilliant. I'm so pleased. No, we can. There's not going to be any... We're going to have global staying the same temperature as we are for the next decade, apparently. I know it's not as catchy, and I can't do anything about that. If you can come up with a better name, that's fine by me. But we've had global warming. Well, we haven't, but we've had all the stories about global warming. And we've had all the stories about global cooling. Well, the good news is that whilst, according to the scientists, the ones that follow the herd, that is, according to the scientists, it is still getting warmer. It just so happens that at the same time, the sea is getting cooler. And it's getting cooler at the moment by exactly the same amount as paraffin lamps are making it hotter. So it's global staying the same as it is for the next 10 years, which is very reassuring. Global temperatures may not increase over the next decade, scientists have said. Instead, they predict natural variations in the climate will offset man-made warming. Researchers say that the computer climate change simulation programs suggest the temperature of the sea and Europe and North America may cool slightly. This is because every 7 to 8 years, the North Atlantic's, oh dear God, meridional overturning circulation, muck. A giant conveyor belt which brings warm water northwards into the area changes. When the circulation is strong, it creates warmer temperatures. They've not a bloody clue, have they? They've not a clue. They're just waffling. They're just talking tripe. I know tripe when I hear it. That is pure, unadulterated honeycomb. That, I'm telling you, absolute tripe. But there you are. So you can stop worrying now. You can trump in bed. You can burn coal again. That's fine. Don't worry about that. Burn coal, and you can run your engine. Just for the hell of it now. You just put your car outside, turn the engine on, leave it. It'll be great. Don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. We've got another 10 years before anything starts to happen. And who's to say that in 10 years' time, instead of it all going back to where it is now, where we're worried sick about squeezing the toothpaste too hard or whatever, because it might affect global warming in the end, because you squeeze the toothpaste too hard, you end up with more toothpaste. You end up with more toothpaste, that means you're buying more. If you're buying more, that means we've got to make more packets, we've got to make more toothpaste. All that takes energy. It's not, there's nothing you can't have that doesn't get affecting it all. So there you are, so that's it. So you can use as much toothpaste as you want now, and you can run your engine, and take the silencer off. Give everyone a laugh. It's fantastic. You don't have to worry about it. Set fire to your garden. Or them grannies you don't like. It's brilliant. We don't have to worry. So that's it now. The scientists have told us we can stop worrying for a decade. Which is a bit of a shame, because I hadn't got started with worrying. Yeah. Kevin says, now they tell me I've just ripped the bloody fireplace out. Oh, well, don't worry, Kevin. In 10 years' time, it'll be balanced out again. Why have you took the fireplace out? I don't understand that. No. Do you remember that advert? There was an advert years ago. And was it Rodney Bewes? You know the Duff one out of the Likely Lads, the little chunky one. You know the what? There was the dead clever. Hey, Beiderbecke's back on. Beiderbecke. It's on one of the. One of the no-mark channels. It's in the hundreds. You know it's rough because it's in the hundreds. Anyway, it's on one of them. The Beiderbecke affair. Yeah. With an almost young James Bolam. And her as well, that Barbara Flynn, before she chunked up. Oh, yeah, now you look, you can see it coming. Oh, God, yes. You see it and you think, oh, hello. You thought she was a bit of totty then, and she is, but... And you see it and you think, I know where she's going to end up. And now you see... Anyway, in his old van, yeah, and Big Al's in it. He was my hero for obvious reasons. We never did find out his name. Oh, well, his name was Big Al, but beyond that. Big Al. And rather interestingly, on the edition I watched the other night, they were delivering leaflets for the local elections. Yes. Yeah, I know. They even had them then. Fantastic. Gordon says, I said exactly the same thing some years ago, really, Earth warming, and no idiot has mentioned the sun's been running a bit hot. Global crap it is. Make a hypothesis and then work a route to it. That's what scientists do. So when I want my climate change... So then, I want my climate change levy back from the government. How do you suggest I go about it? I should go along and vote for that today. That'll do it. Yeah, go along and vote for the return of the climate change levy. Yeah. They have levies in America. There's that song that rhymes it with Chevy. I can't do anything else. Simon says, did I just hear that right? During an interview with an estate agent, developers were described as providing almost affordable housing. Now we know why the market is facing a correction. We must listen with care at 1 o'clock. Oh, come on, it's an estate agent. You can't... Don't be looking for firm statements from estate agents. It's like having a snake on a string. It is. No disrespect to the rather dubious profession. Estate agents, just make it up. It's absolutely brilliant. Peter said, global warming must be true. I've just come from Southport and the sea's dried up. I can't see it anywhere. You've convinced me, Peter.
BBC Radio Manchester. Headline News.
A bid from some members of Manchester University to ban the armed forces from recruitment fairs on campus has failed. A babysitter found guilty of murdering her neighbour's 2-year-old son is to face a retrial after the Court of Appeal quashed her conviction. And 4 Britons are being treated in hospital after they were involved in a bus crash in Egypt. 9 people were killed. Manchester's weather now, some showers with sunny spells, highs of 15 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester. 2020 traffic.
If you're heading for the trains, do be aware engineering works are still ongoing on the tracks between Manchester Piccadilly and Stafford. So for the moment, a revised service is in operation on cross-country services. A replacement bus service will run between Stafford and Wilmslow, serving Stoke and Macclesfield until around about the very end of this weekend. So do be prepared for some disruption to your journey. Best really to check with National Rail inquiries before your journey out. Taking a quick look now to the roads, and don't forget, if you're travelling around Hyde, Market Street on the A57 between the M67 and Union Street still closed between G Cross and the slip road for Junction 3 at Hyde whilst roadworks continue. Don't forget as well, we do have restrictions in the Poynton area of Cheshire on London Road, still closed between First Avenue and Adlington Park, down to 1 lane either side of the carriageway whilst work continues on Hope Green Railway Bridge. Don't forget, if you can update me on anything you've heard, do get in touch. Make sure, of course, it's hands-free before you dial, though. The number you need, 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Hey, Cara.
Yes?
You've confused me now. You said the very end of the weekend, but when is the very end of the weekend?
The very end of the weekend. Exactly.
Is that Monday?
Yes.
Because well, you see, the weekend, normally the very end of the weekend, at the very least, is a start on Monday, but it's a bank holiday weekend. So is it the very end of the weekend or the very end of the bank holiday weekend?
You'll have to find out.
Oh, you don't know? All right. Well, no wonder I'm confused then. Right then, we'll go for Sunday or Monday for the maybe. All right. Thank you very much. You've been a great help. Very end of the weekend.
Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic. BBC Radio Manchester.
We must point out that wasn't Cara's error. Indeed error. It wasn't Cara. All she's doing is reporting what she's been told by the train jobbies. And we all know the train jobbies haven't a clue what they're on about. 0161 228 2255. John in Warrington says, can we talk about the McCanns on your election programme? Well, you can if you want. Do you mean tonight, from 10 o'clock onwards, me and Professor John Tong? Didn't Guinness use a McCann for an advert? You know, like Guinness is good for. I think that was a McCann.
Allan Beswick. BBC Radio Manchester.
Perhaps it was a Pelican. Gary in Wigan. Hiya, Gary.
Hi, Alan. Afternoon.
Afternoon.
I'd just like a bit of advice, if that's okay.
I'll try.
Right. Well, my vehicle was done for speeding on the 18th of the 11th last year. Okay. They've got the back of the vehicle with a registration and a maximum speed of 39 miles an hour in a 30. I've twice asked them to find out who was driving the car, photographic evidence. We use this road all the time, every day, a lot of times during the day. It's got the fine for the month, and well, the actual fine came through the post 9th of January. So about this time, a couple of months have passed with no idea who was driving. On 2 occasions, I've asked for photographic evidence of who was driving the vehicle. We're accepting the actual fine, but they're accusing me of driving the vehicle at speed. It could have been my wife, and all I want to do is clear it up. They've now summoned me to court with no response back to the first 2 requests for more evidence of who was driving the vehicle. And they've now summoned me to court in July, and I'm just wondering what I should do from here.
Who owns the vehicle?
The vehicle was registered in my name.
You own the vehicle?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not a limited company?
No.
Okay. I think you should stick to your guns, first of all. And I think when you get to court, you should say to the magistrates, I cannot tell you who was driving the vehicle. It may have been me. It may have been my wife. We have no idea. We both use the car frequently during the course of a day, and we travel down that road frequently through the course of a day.
Yeah.
The vehicle is used by both me and my wife. I cannot tell you because I do not know who was driving the vehicle at that moment on that day. I do not know. I'm not refusing to tell you. I simply don't know.
That's it.
Now, they will then, it is always up to the prosecution to prove their case.
Yeah.
So you just simply say, I am perfectly happy to acknowledge it was me if someone will show me that it was me, but frankly, I don't know. Now, as the owner of the vehicle, you have an obligation, a legal obligation, to provide them with the name of the driver.
Yeah.
Now, our legal system has what we might call a reasonableness clause, because normally, if it was my car, I'd know. If they said that car was going down the M58 at 320, well, it's a Fiesta. If we get over 94, we'd be laughing, I am told. Anyway, if they said it was my car, then I would know. I'd say, yeah, I'm the only person, to all intents and purposes, I'm the only person that drives that car, so it's me. You got me, Gov. Here's your money.
Yeah.
But if you genuinely don't know, then it falls on them to prove it. They can prove the car was there.
Yeah.
But what they can't do is prove the driver, and it's the driver that's prosecuted.
Yeah.
Now, what they usually do as an alternative is they say, well, we can't prove it was you, but we know it was your car. You have an obligation to inform us who was driving.
Yeah.
And you say, I don't know. Now, the way that works with limited companies that own vehicles is the limited company is fined, but they don't get any points on their licence because a limited company doesn't have a licence. So they just get fined. In the case of you, they may decide to convict you for failing to provide the information. But your defence to that is, I don't keep a log. I'm a private person. I'm not a company. I'm a private person. My wife and I nip up and down that road in the car all the time.
Yeah. Well,
stick to your guns.
Right, well, just reiterating on that, this is what I've told them twice now. Because of the gap of the fine coming through, I said, I have no idea. The amount of times we go down that road, I have not a clue.
Well, stick to that. Don't move away from that. Keep with that. And also, watch now, I don't know the rules on this, but there is a rule that says the case has got to be heard within a given time. So how long ago was it?
It was, the offence was 18th of the 11th last year.
So we're heading out towards 6 months.
We are, yeah.
A pal of mine on a charge was, he was working, he was leaving the country to do some work on the day of his hearing. So he asked for an adjournment, and it was adjourned, and the adjournment took it out of time.
Oh, right.
When it went to court, the defence was, it's out of time. You have no right to hear this case, Your Honour. And it was thrown out.
Nothing to answer.
Nothing to answer. I would have, it's worth, because clearly you're wriggling here, it's worth the price of a conversation with a solicitor. So that you find out, A, how long before it's out of time, can I get an adjournment, and if so, take it out of time? Or, how liable am I to know, not to tell, because you don't know, you can't tell. You will have to swear on oath the truth, and the truth is you don't know.
Well, the truth is that we don't know.
Yeah, that's
not
it.
a clue.
However, it's worth having a word with a solicitor, because the case you're wanting to argue, I think you would be better off using a professional to make that argument. But, you know, that would cost you money.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned this adjournment. You know, I'm not not trying to wriggle out of this, but you mentioned adjournment. What's the right on adjournment?
Well, the court has the right to decide. You have the right to ask. So you get the date's set for, I don't know, the 3rd of June, and you say, I'm very sorry, Your Honour, I can't make the 3rd of June for these reasons.
Holiday?
That might not be as convincing as my friends who was sent by his employer out of the country. But in the end, it doesn't matter. You tell him the reason. I can't go that day because I'm on holiday.
Yeah.
And if you like, send them a photograph of your airline tickets or something and say, I'm actually out of the country on that day. Can I have an adjournment?
Right.
Now, they will then probably adjourn it. They might well say, hang on a minute, we adjourn this. What's going? No, you get down here. But it's worth finding out.
Right, thanks for your advice.
Good luck to you.
Have a good day.
And you, 0161 228 2255. We do not encourage speeding. Unless it's late at night on a motorway. According to the Met Office website, the last global temperature increase was recorded in 1997. That's a text from Neil in Middleton, who's doing our research for us. And it's a team effort. We're all in this together, aren't we? I get the dosh, you pay the licence fee, but otherwise, we're a team. Even Richard is from time to time involved. Nah, he's the producer. Why would he be involved? Mike in Lanzarote. May you rot in hell. Mike, good morning to you.
Good afternoon, Alan.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm not in Lanzarote.
No, the sun's just gone in at the moment. It's only about, about 85.
Yeah,
about 85
does the
degrees
term get stuffed mean anything to you?
Thank you very much, Alan.
It's all right, I'd just like to help when I can. Go on, what can I do for you?
I know this is a bit late, but I'd just like to ask you a question, because it's really doing my brains in. Do you know the teachers went on strike?
Yeah.
And I've got every sympathy for them. Do you know, if you take your child out of school, you get fined?
Correct.
Right. So the teachers, not their fault, it's the government's fault. But the children were off school for 2 days. Who's going to pay the fines for all those children that were out of school for 2 days?
Well, there won't be a fine, because the authority that does the fining is the local authority, and the local authority is the organisation that has the obligation to provide the pupils with an education. The teachers have no such obligation. Their job is just to go to work.
Yeah, I'm just wondering that the children have been put out of school for 2 days, and if they are out of school, if you as a parent or me as a parent took my children out of school, I would get fined for that.
You would, yes.
Right, so...
Because you would be inhibiting your child's right to an education. So now, who would fine you?
The local authority.
The local authority, that's correct.
I mean, I don't live in England anymore. I've been
that's
here quite a while.
That's all right.
I'm just trying to understand, get this round my brains, that somebody is responsible for those children not going to school.
Well, the answer to that is the local authority is responsible, not the teachers. The teachers, in a business, and I say this so often on this programme, in a business, the employee has no obligation or contract to the customer. None. None whatsoever. None. Right. All the obligation on the employee is contractual, and it's contractual in a contract with the employer.
Yeah.
That's one argument. That's one contract. There is another contract that goes on, and the contract is this. The employer has a contract with the customer.
Yeah.
Now, the way the employer fulfills his obligation is he buys the time and skills of an individual to do his part of the contract for him. So the obligation to provide an education is not the teachers, it's the education authorities. Now, I asked you earlier, you rightly said, if two parents keep their child out of school, then they are possibly guilty of an offence. The people who will prosecute them are the local authority.
So it's not the local authority responsible for these children being out of school for 2 days?
You could argue that they are, but you're asking the local authority to prosecute itself and then, one presumes, fine itself.
Well, I think if I was a parent, I'd get a solicitor and sue the authority, and if everybody in the country did that, can you imagine the amount of the bill that would be?
Well, there is no suing to be done. What is the parent's loss?
Well, the parents' loss is that the council, like you say, can prosecute these people for taking the children out of school. So why can't the parents prosecute the council for having their children off school for 2 days?
Because the law's not like that. It isn't written that way. If the council did it frequently with a specific child or other such, then yes, action could be brought. Action could, in fact, be brought.
Don't you think that's a one-way street?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's wrong. I'm sorry.
I'm having awful trouble with the surprise in your voice. Of course it's a one-way street.
I'm sorry, it's just in my brains in that some people can do something to you, but you can't do it back to them.
Correct.
Yeah, right, okay. All right,
as I say, the only thing that confuses me is the fact that you didn't think that was the case. It's always been the case.
I know, and I get it here. I live here. I know. I know it's a one-way street here. But the thing is, there must be a recourse where people can retaliate for somebody doing something to you that you know is wrong.
There is. You can, in fact, if the council fails to provide your child with an education, you can bring action against the council.
Yeah.
Now, there are a variety of things you could do to bring that about, but 2 days off isn't going to sway it.
I still think it's wrong.
I've got wrong is one of those words that we have a lot of round here. Of course, it's wrong. We don't really do right.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Good on you. Give our regards to Lanzarote.
I will, Alan. Thank you very much, mate.
0161 228 2255. How say you, Alan? Yes, it was the Guinness ads that used a McCann, and the slogan was "Guinness Draft can now be drank at home, so you don't have to go out." Obviously, it never caught on. That's Lewis in Bolton. Yeah, quite. It's up to the driver to provide the driver's name. What? It's up to the driver. And if he cannot name them, he will be charged for failing to provide information. I've been charged with the same offence and received a £120 fine and 3 points on my licence. My car was in the garage at the time, but the garage refused to provide the information. Anthony in Glossop. So there you are. That's the gist of that is, and it's an answer for Gary, that the obligation to know who is in your car, according to Gary, is paramount. I'd be interested to know, according to Anthony, I'd be interested to know, Anthony, if you went with a solicitor to make that case. Be interested. Well, there you are. 0161 228 2255. How say you today? Alan, regarding the man summoned for speeding, if the driver had killed someone, would it really be acceptable for a driver just to go to court and say, I don't know who the driver was? Surely it could have been me or someone else who uses a car excuse gives free licence for everyone to escape their responsibilities. Yes, it does, Brian, which is why they say that you, as the registered keeper of the vehicle, have an obligation to know who was driving it at any given moment. However, what that doesn't do, ever in our legal system, is, well, I say ever, but it's rare that we have what you might call absolute law. So it is a defence. Now, whether the magistrates on the day accept it as a defence, an acceptable one, is up to them. Whatever happened to private griefs, said David. Last night, Frank Lampard, who'd lost his mother, scored a goal and then broke down in tears, surrounded by his consoling teammates. I blame Diana, or at least the industry that grew up over her public death. I've also heard other footballers say, I dedicate my goal to all the children in Africa. Yeah, it makes me want to vomit as well. I mean, good luck to the lad. His mum's died, and those of us that have been through that know how bloody awful it is. It is ghastly. But in the end, you have to shut up, grit your teeth, and get on with your work. And as for dedicating gold, this one's for you, Mum. Thank you. She's dead, for God's sake. It's horrible. It's agony. It really is. Vile, utter agony. But it's ordinary as well, isn't it, really? It's ordinary. There you go. Alan, I got back yesterday from a brief family visit to Warrington, and if you recall a couple of weeks back, I asked you for the name of the restaurant, charging £50 for 2 pizzas so I could avoid it. Well, having been to a few restaurants during the stay, I now wish you'd given me the name so I could have gone to it, as it would have been a damn sight cheaper than the ones we finished up visiting. That's Brian, who's on the Costa Blanca. Look, can I just say, you don't have to be in Spanish territory to communicate. You don't? No, you can do it. You can do it from all over Manchester as well. I know, it's bizarre. Costa Brava? Where was he from, the other one? Lanzarote? Could you not afford Tenerife?
BBC Radio Manchester. Headline News.
A bid from some members of Manchester University Students' Union to ban the armed forces from recruitment fairs has failed. Children as young as 13 are being treated for drug and alcohol problems in Oldham. The number of under-19s being treated at Oldham's drug and alcohol service Oasis has more than doubled since last year. And workers at the homeless charity Shelter are on strike today in Manchester in protest against a pay cut. Manchester's weather, some showers with sunny spells, highs of 15 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
If you're heading through Cheadle on the A34 Kingsway, watch out, the lights are out on Gatley Road through to the M60 Junction 3 at Kingsway, alongside 80 other sets on surrounding routes. Now, this is all because of a power failure in the area, so do take care. Now to Hyde, Market Street on the A57, still closed between G Cross and Junction 3 Hyde, the slip road on the M67. That's all because of some gas maintenance work that's underway at present. And in Bury, the Rock on the A56 between Butcher Lane and Clark Street still closed off, while sewer works continue with the diversion set via Rochdale Road and Derby Way. Motorways looking fairly quiet for the moment. M60 traffic moving well between Junction 12 at Eccles through towards Junction 23 Ashton underline clockwise and anti-clockwise. And if you spot anything else on the roads that you think I should know about, do get in touch hands-free 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester. Sports with Dennis Lloyd.
Manchester City goalkeeper Andreas Isaacson says he wants to leave the club because he's unhappy at not being the first-choice keeper. The Swede, who has been unable to displace Joe Hart this season, believes a move is necessary to keep his place in the national squad. Sven-Göran Eriksson, meanwhile, is believed to have persuaded his players against boycotting the club's end-of-season tour to the Far East. It's understood that senior Manchester City players offered to sign a petition saying they would not travel without their manager on the trip to Thailand and Hong Kong later this month. Eriksson's future at Eastlands remains uncertain following a meeting with owner Thaksin Shinawatra last week. Nicky Butt says he's delighted his former teammates have made it through to the Champions League final in Moscow. The midfielder, now at Newcastle, was part of the United side which won the competition 9 years ago. He says the win over Barcelona was well deserved.
I think it's great for them. Obviously, we've had lots of chances over the years in semi-finals and not done as well as they should have done. And it was a great performance by them against a great team. And good luck to them. They deserve it, and they got a great chance of winning a double now.
Well, United's opponents in Moscow will be Chelsea after they beat Liverpool last night. But despite achieving what Jose Mourinho never managed at Stamford Bridge, Avram Grant's position as manager remains in question. The former Chelsea boss Claudio Ranieri fully expects Grant to be sacked if he doesn't finish the season with some silverware.
I think if Grant doesn't win nothing, I think finish his job there in Chelsea. If Grant will win something, it's okay. Maybe he continues.
Reading have suspended 2 players for a breach of internal discipline. Ibrahima Sonko and Emir Faye have been given a 2-game ban, which will see them miss crucial games against Tottenham and Derby as Reading fight to stay in the Premier League. Sebastian Chabal and Jason White will both return for Sale Sharks Premiership game with Harlequins on Sunday. Both players missed last week's European Challenge Cup semi-final at Bath. Oriel Ripoll misses out with a broken arm. Lancashire manager Mike Watkinson says he wouldn't have replaced Brad Hodge with just anyone. He secured the services of Pakistan batsman Mohammad Yusuf, whilst Hodge is away playing in the Indian Premier League. Yusuf is expected to make his debut this Sunday against Durham in the Friends Provident Trophy, and Watkinson says he comes highly recommended.
We weren't interested in bringing an average player in. I had a chat to a few of the guys, and Fred, I know, has bowled at him on a number of occasions, reckons he's one of the best players he's bowled at, and that's a good rap for him, really.
And a few moments ago, Lancashire were 54 for 2 against Durham University at the racecourse. Mark Chilton was out for 12. Mal Loy made 1. New signing Francois Duplessis is making his debut in that game. And Ronnie O'Sullivan will renew his rivalry with the 7-times winner Stephen Hendry in the semi-finals of the World Snooker Championship in Sheffield this afternoon. They get underway at around 2 o'clock. Tonight at the Crucible, Joe Perry takes on Ali Carter.
Life and laughs with Eamon and Jimmy.
I need cheering. Not at the doctors this week. And I said, just give it me straight, give it me straight. How long have I got? He said 10. I said, 10 what years? Months, weeks? He went, 9, 8, 7.
Eamon O'Neill and Jimmy Wag.
Well, did he say he couldn't find anything wrong with it? It must be the drink. I said, yeah, I'll come back with you, sober doctor.
Eamon and Jimmy.
You know what I told you? I think I'm getting a bit obsessive-compulsive, because whatever I eat now, I have to deep fry it in batter. Whatever it is, if it's a boiled egg, deep fry it in batter. Chocolate, toast. I want to see a doctor, what he said. What? You reckon it's a fresher in my life, all right?
If your radio sounds funny on Sunday morning, you must be listening to Eamon O'Neill and Jimmy Wag.
You cannot imagine anybody else in the world playing the role.
Sunday morning from 9 at BBC Radio Manchester.
Just by way of evidence, I'm not the sickest man on earth. John in Cheadle says, just when you thought Madeleine McCann was well ahead in the international hide-and-seek contest, a bloody Austrian rumps away with a title at 24 years. I am not alone. That's all I'm saying. I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that thinks these wicked thoughts. Yeah, it doesn't make them any less wicked. Les in Cheadle-Hulme, how are you doing?
Are you all right, Alan?
I'm all right, yeah.
You were making a statement this morning about global warming.
Yes.
About putting your car outside and switching the engine on and great.
Yeah, we're okay now.
Right, now if you do that outside the newsagents and run in for your paper, you'll get done.
Oh, aye, yeah.
And you'll get done outside if you leave it on the road.
If it's on the public highway, you will, yeah.
Yeah, but if you haven't got to drive, what do you do with it? You have to do it.
No, it's not compulsory.
It's not compulsory.
It's not compulsory, no.
Oh.
But if you do it and you're on the public highway, then you're in the doo-doo.
Can I say that Allan Beswick told me to do it?
Oh, you can, yeah. That'll just double your fine, that.
OK, mate.
So I should avoid that one if I were you. It's not much of an excuse.
OK, Alan.
Good on you, Les.
Bye-bye.
You thought you had me then. He thought he did. He thought he had me. He was close. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, that's good. That's very, very good. I don't remember Paladin, but I do remember the other guy that travelled with a gun, the lawman. The signature tune went, the lawman came with a gun, there was a job to be done. So they called for the badge and the gun of lawman, lawman. I think I remember it now. It was when you wrote lawman with all them A's in it. Lawman, lawman. But I don't remember much more of the tune, and if I did, even if I could hear it in my head, I couldn't really replicate it. I just thought I'd say hello from Kefalonia, which is more upmarket than common Spain. On the news earlier, the estate agent did say almost affordable housing. Well, good. If that's what they're saying, that's fine. You've missed the point, says Phil. You've missed the point of this new forecast of global cooling. It's another opportunity for increasing taxation. You might be right. I've not seen how they're going to wangle it in yet, but you could be spot on with that. It could indeed be an excuse for yet more taxation. And why not? What are we for if it's not to pay taxes, for crying out loud? Ted in Moston says, does this mean we can take down the god-awful, ugly carbuncles that are wind farms? Well, we can't take them down, Ted, but we can perhaps switch them off for a decade. Actually, Shell, the petrol company, are trying to sell their share of the largest offshore wind farm in the world, I believe it is. And Shell are trying to sell theirs. I don't think that, because they've got about half. I don't think it means they're going to sell half of them. I mean, I think it means they're selling half of the company. Or they're selling all their bits. Paladin is a paragon of chivalry, an heroic champion. OK. That's nice. You see, we just learn. Now that world temperatures are expected to stabilise, can we go back to putting our rubbish in one bin and having it emptied every week? No. No, now they've got into the only people who are doing anything out of this more than one bin are wheelie bin manufacturers, aren't they? They're the only ones making any money out of it. Keith in West Orton. Hiya, Keith.
Hi, Alan. We were talking earlier, someone was ringing up about being fined for not sending the child to school.
Yes.
I want you to put me right on something. At one time, you weren't legally obliged to send your children to school, but you were legally obliged to educate them to standards set by the education authority.
Yeah.
Is that still the case?
Yes, it is.
So I just wonder, once you're in this contract, as you say, with the teacher, with the authority, you then seem to be sucked in and then having to pay all the penalties should you not send your child to school.
Well, if your child attends a school and you don't notify the school that the child is now going to be educated at home, then the child is seen as a pupil of the school. If the child fails to attend, no doubt the school social worker, or the school board as it was called when I was a kid, but whoever's responsible will come round and find out what's going on. And if you then say, well, I've decided to educate my child at home and this is the process I am using, then you'll be all right.
All right, so you can, but you can't say he's not coming next week, but I shall continue his studies at all.
You would have to demonstrate that the child is being educated at home. You couldn't just say, yeah, he is.
Yes. I mean, I understand they send inspectors around just to make sure that the child is attaining a certain standard. But so, I mean, if that's still the case, then you think the teachers would be grateful that they turn up, because if everybody did that, the teachers would be out of a job, wouldn't they?
No, they wouldn't. They'd have a lot more jobs.
Would they?
Yeah, they'd have a lot more jobs.
Private education, you mean?
Absolutely. You imagine at the moment you've got 30 kids in a class, one teacher.
Oh, of course.
If those 30 parents decided, let's do away with twins and all that, because it gets complicated mathematically, but if those 30 parents decided to educate their children at home, they would need some kind of help from a teacher. Most parents, including me if I was one, most parents wouldn't be able to educate their children at home and would have to purchase the services of a teacher. So you'd end up with 15 teachers teaching 30 kids, not 30. They'd get a lot more work, not less.
And then supply and demand, I suppose they could double the fee as well, I suppose.
Well, quite possibly, yes. Mind you, the Crappens wouldn't get much work, would they? There are none, of course.
Look, let's not go down that road. Okay?
No, indeed. Good on. Cheers, Keith.
Bye.
Have a belter. David in Sale said an earlier BBC News item stated that the children of Joseph Fritzl were doing relatively well. They never said that, did they? I hope they never said that. Oh, dear, they're doing relatively well. Surely that was a poor choice of words, David in Sale. If they said that, you are absolutely correct. It was indeed a poor choice of words. That's terrible.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh, I'm all right now. John in Bury.
Hi.
Hi, what can we do for you?
Well, what it was, we had a phone call yesterday from PRS, which is Performing Arts Society, and they're asking if we've got a radio on. I was in the office with a radio on, and they're actually saying we have to pay a fee of £100 a year to have a radio on in the office, one person.
One person?
For one person, yeah.
Just you?
Just me in the office. I mean, I'm sat in the office, and obviously we have the radio on through the day normally.
Well, let me go back to this office. How many people are employed in this office?
Well, there's only myself in the office, and there's a guy in the workshop outside.
So the person outside?
Yeah.
But does he come back into the office?
Occasionally. Obviously lunchtime, that time.
Yeah.
And it just seems a bit unfair to me, because obviously you pay a fee for the Performing Arts Society, don't you, obviously? to play a record or whatever.
No, I don't know whether we do or not, but we pay a fee to play it as a broadcast. What we don't do is pay the fee that entitles you to rebroadcast it.
So if we're listening to it as a private individual in an office situation,
well, that's where the argument would be. For you to broadcast into the office this radio, if it's not a public office, if there isn't more than one person in there, I think you can argue it's for personal use. You can make that argument. I don't know what the absolute rules of PRS are, but they certainly can't make you pay a licence to listen to the radio on a personal basis, just you listening.
Yeah.
However, once you get into a workplace, it's then much harder to argue. I mean, at home, you have friends come round and all of that, and you may listen to the radio and such like, and there is no charge, because that's regarded as personal use. So the argument would be about whether it's personal use or not. And I think if you said only I can hear it, only I listen to it, the other person is working in the workshop, we don't play it in the workshop, it's just in my office and there's only me in it, and I am alone. Now we then get down to what is the definition of a workplace.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know the definition of a workplace for performing rights regulations. I don't know. Of course, they don't have the right to write the law as they please, so it may well be there are cases that have gone to court on this, and frankly I don't know of them and don't know the outcome of them. But if they define the workplace as the whole building, then you're playing music in the workplace and you need a licence. If you can break it down and say, no, it's not being played in the workplace, in fact, in the majority of the workplace, it cannot even be heard. It is just played in this small room with the door closed and only I can hear it. It's personal use, not business use. And if you can make that case, you'll save yourself £100. But I don't know the rules and regulations. I'm just looking at the principle.
Yeah, it just seems a bit, a bit well, I say unfair because it's not a one-off thing. It's saying it's a yearly thing that you have to pay.
It is indeed an annual thing. Yeah, it's
No.
a license to. It's a license to publicly perform other people's music.
And if we were listening to a talk station as such, would that not apply?
You might still need one, because even the talk stations, just like this programme, is 2 hours of talk, but there's music in it. The jingles are music.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's music in it. There are no stations that do not have any music.
I think a lot of people are going to get a shock, aren't they?
Well, a lot of people get a shock every week. You're the second person in a month to ring up, so they do constantly, PRS, they constantly seek out those who may unwittingly not be licensed and point out that they need to be licensed.
And they just normally ring you up on a phone, no letter.
Yeah, they just ring you up and say, "Oh, yeah, you're doing this." And if you say yes, they say, "Well, just a minute." So what you need to do is you need to get back to them and say, "I'm not performing it. It's not going beyond me. It is personal." They will say it's the workplace, and you'll say, "Well, it is the workplace, but the public have no access to it, and in fact, nobody has access to it but me."
Yeah.
So it's just me. I'm just listening at work, but I'm not listening, as it were, in terms of in rebroadcasting it.
Yeah.
But that's the ruling. That's it's the workplace.
No charge in America.
I have no idea whether there's a charge in America. There never used to be, but it was all changed. There are, if you go on the website, the Performing Rights Society website, there are bits and pieces there of what the rules are and how they would apply in your case. But it comes down to the definition of workplace. All right?
workstation.
Good
Okay.
luck to it. Well, workplace, it's about workplace. Are you in the workplace? Are you not? Well, you are, but are you the only one that can hear it? That might negate the need for a licence. I don't know, is the simple answer.
It's Manchester's most interesting coffee club. Join free tomorrow morning from 9.
If you have something to say, this is the place to say it. 0161 228 2255 or Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk or, of course, 07786 206 951.
95.1 FM, DAB digital radio, and the World Wide Web. This is Manchester. BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, a babysitter faces a retrial after her conviction for killing a 2-year-old was quashed, and a landmark ruling for sufferers of Alzheimer's.
And Shaballam White will return on Sunday for the Sharks.
Well, this afternoon we've got sunny spells and just 1 or 2 isolated showers with top temperatures of 15 Celsius.
Good afternoon, I'm Faye Rusco. A babysitter found guilty of murdering her neighbour's 2-year-old son is to face a retrial after the Court of Appeal quashed her conviction. Suzanne Holsworth, who's 37 and from Hartlepool, has always denied killing Kyle Fisher. Speaking outside the court, her solicitor Campbell Malone gave his client's reaction to the ruling.
Obviously, she's very happy and relieved at the outcome. She's very grateful to the obvious care and sensitivity which the court have dealt with this very difficult appeal. But you will appreciate that they've decided that the appropriate remedy now is that there should be a retrial. But beyond that, there's not really very much I can say, other than that Suzanne is looking forward very much to going home.
A bid from some members of Manchester University's student union to ban the armed forces from recruitment fairs on campus has failed. At a union meeting, the motion to keep the RAF, the Army and Navy out of the students' union was thrown out. Supporters of the ban say they'll keep on fighting. Andy Cunningham from the students' union is one of them.
The Army exists as part of the state. It's going to always exist. What we have a problem with is our student union implicitly accepting that, and the resources of our sort of democratic institution being used to further those recruitment. So if a student wants to join the army, they can go and join the army. There's a TA barracks at the university. We don't see why an external body like that should use the resources of our student union.
The appeal courts made a landmark ruling that will affect thousands of people in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease who've been refused access to certain drugs. The judges ruled that the procedures used by the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence, which decides which drugs are cost-effective, were unfair. Jane Hughes has more details for BBC Radio Manchester.
Campaigners say today's decision could bring them one step closer to getting anti-dementia drugs approved on the NHS for people with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. In 2005, NICE said the drugs shouldn't be made available because they weren't cost-effective, but it wouldn't fully reveal how it made that calculation. Today, the Court of Appeal said it must make the decision-making process transparent. That opens the way for the manufacturers to ask NICE to reconsider its ruling on Alzheimer's drugs. It also means the way NICE assesses other drugs is also open to scrutiny. NICE says that could make the whole drug appraisal process slower and more complex.
An announcement's expected this afternoon on whether some Manchester United fans will be able to attend the Champions League final in Moscow without visas. The Russian authorities are thought to be considering relaxing some of their regulations. It's thought they may decide fans on official club trips may not need a visa. A bus carrying tourists has crashed in Egypt, killing 9 of those on board. 4 British people are reported to have been injured. The Foreign Office says no one from Britain was killed. Workers at the homeless charity Shelter are on strike today in Manchester in protest against a pay cut. A spokesman for Shelter said a reduction in government funding has meant they can't continue with the current rates of pay. And researchers say some computer keyboards harbour more germs than the average toilet seat. Which Computing magazine says the germs can spread vomiting and diarrhoea and include E. coli, the bacterium which causes food poisoning.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Well, it's make or break time for Sale Sharks in the Premiership with just 2 games to play. But it's great news on the injury front as Sebastian Chabal and Jason White will both return for Sunday's game with Harlequins. Both players missed last week's European Challenge Cup semi-final defeat at Bath. However, top try scorer Oriel Ripple is out with a broken arm. Manchester City goalkeeper Andreas Isaksson has yet again reiterated his desire to leave Eastlands. The Swede has been unable to displace Joe Hart this season and believes the move is essential to keep his place in the national squad. Meanwhile, Sven-Göran Eriksson is thought to have stopped a potential player boycott at Manchester City. Senior players are believed to have offered to sign a letter saying they won't participate in the club's end-of-season tour to the Far East without their manager. Eriksson's almost certain to be sacked after just 1 year in charge at Eastlands. Oldham Athletic manager John Sheridan is hoping goalkeeper Mark Crosley and striker Andy Liddell will sign new deals at Boundary Park. Both players have been offered new contracts. And Lancashire's new signing Mohamed Youssef is set to make his debut this Sunday against Durham in the Friends Provident Trophy. The Pakistan batsman will link up with his teammates on Friday after agreeing to replace Brad Hodge, who's playing in the Indian Premier League. Meanwhile, Francois du Plessis is on 25 not out on his Lancs debut in the friendly match at Durham. A short while ago, Lancs was 74 for 2.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, this afternoon looks drier and brighter with sunny spells and just a few isolated showers. So if you're lucky, you may just manage to stay dry and see some sunshine. Top temperatures 15 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Message for John, who was asking about the PRS, the Performing Rights Society licence. It's actually the MCPS and PRS licence, but never mind. One email says to me, why doesn't he do what I did with PRS and just tell them to get stuffed? Well, good luck with that. So I've looked up on the PRS website. Listen to this. In answer to the question, it's one of those Q&A bits. You know, frequently asked, FAQs, isn't it? FAQ, Rob. Frequently asked questions. Who has to have a PRS music licence? Any location or premises outside of home where music is played, from clubs to concert halls, from discos to dentists' waiting rooms, and from trains to takeaways. The owner-proprietor of the premises is normally responsible for obtaining a PRS music licence for the public performance of copyright music. Now, I'd be prepared to argue, but it's not my neck on the block, I'd be prepared to argue that only one person listening is not a public performance. Although I've done gigs where there were 3. And 2 of them left at half-time. Joyce, you can't blame them, no. Joyce in Bredbury. What can we do for you, Joyce?
Hi, Joyce. Sorry,
no, I'm Alan, me, different
hi,
shape
Alan.
entirely. What can we do for you?
I know. Thanks for a great programme. I
It's my
listen to you on
pleasure.
a regular basis. I'm just wondering why the footballers who intend to go to Moscow should be allowed some special dispensation in regard to the visas. You know, I mean, other people who have to travel for holidays and for business reasons, they have to go through I've never done it myself, but I know I can assume it costs quite a lot of money and entails quite a lot of paperwork. So why footballers? Why should they have special dispensation?
Well, of course, the decision about that dispensation is one for the Russian authorities, not the British or even the football authorities. The Russians have probably decided that, first of all, the footballers won't at any moment be alone and able to go scuttling off. The chances of them wanting to emigrate, or immigrate in the case of Russia, and go and work on a tractor in Siberia when they're earning £6 million a year playing football, I think are probably slim.
Oh, I don't know. It's a backward tide, a tide going out. We get the Polish people coming out.
We do indeed get the Polish people coming this way, but I've not heard of many people giving up their multi-million-pound jobs for kicking a ball and thinking, I sod it, I'm going to live in Russia. Them tractors look good to me. So I think it might not be unrelated to that.
No.
And also, they're going to be chaperoned all the time, as indeed they are when they go to play Chelsea. They don't all drive drive down on their own. They all fly out together.
Yeah.
So...
It's all right, I'm sorry, I'm in the garden, there's a plane going over.
Is there really? Well, I should duck. You know,
In Bradbury, you need to.
the way things have gone on at the moment, there's a 50-50 chance of it being Prince William driving it.
God.
Anyway, he seems to drive all the other bloody things. Anyway, but that's why, I think, and the reason the Russians are doing it is, of course, they wanted, and I think are dead chuffed, that the final is in Moscow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, then.
So that's why.
The best of luck to them.
Well, who do you mean, Chelsea or Manchester United or just generic?
Chelsea. It's got to be Chelsea.
It's got to be Chelsea.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm back for the other side, though. That's not quite the right phrase, is it?
It's probably not. No, it's probably not.
It's the wrong colour, you see.
Ah, right. Are you a City person?
Yes.
Can I tell you a sick joke?
Oh, go on then.
It's all related
I'll pass
to
it
this.
on to my son.
Please do. But it's all related to the woman that's been in a basement for 24 years.
Oh, God, no, that's sick, that.
I said it was a sick joke, and the first words she said when she came out were, "Has City won anything yet?"
Wrong.
See? You laughed. It doesn't matter whether I'm wrong.
know, yeah.
You still laughed. Good on you, Joyce.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Great programme,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. She'll be writing to complain now. Great programme. Did you hear that joke? Mary in Saddleworth. Hiya, Mary.
Hello.
What can we do for you?
Well, I heard somebody on the phone to you on Monday, a lady that was concerned because a little pension had gone down because of the income tax.
Mavis.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, over 65, she should actually be better off.
So they say, yes.
Right. So last year, my allowances were 7,550. This year, they've gone up to 9,030. So I've got one pension where I'm £6.90 better off.
Yeah.
And another pension where I'm £13 better off.
Yeah.
Because of this. So even though they've abolished the 10%...
10 pence, yeah.
10 pence, sorry. The basic rate on the second pension has gone down from 22% to 20%, which gives me the £13. And on the other pension, because they've put it up £1,500, I'm allowed more, so that is more as well. The trouble is that the Inland Revenue people, when they send you the tax code, they only send it you at the basic rate.
Yeah.
They don't say, oh, this person's 65 this year, they need the new rate. Now, providing your income is no more than $21,800 a year, you should be allowed £9,030.
Right. What somebody else said, and that's not to in any way diminish what you've just said, what somebody else said was that what has probably happened is that the purveyor of that pension, just because because it's a pension she's had since she was 14, but it's only very small, apparently.
Yeah.
And what's probably happened is the purveyor of that pension takes tax at source and has decided that in her case, just with the pension, the end sum that she gets diminishes. And what somebody advised her to do later on that day, if I remember correctly...
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
No,
rest
that's
of
fine,
it,
don't
yeah.
worry. What somebody advised her to do, because I was going to say if you agreed with this advice, what somebody advised her to do was to get back in touch with the pension provider, as it were, and say, look, I want this pension paid net. I don't want you to take tax off it at source. Pay it me net, and I'll sort out the revenue. And that way, she'll then sort out her allowances and be in the position that you've just advocated.
Yeah, but I always thought that the Inland Revenue, if they were getting income tax in from any source, would advise the people concerned what the new tax code was. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I've known quite a few people that have reached the age of 64, but in the fiscal year will become 65. Now, they're entitled to it in that year. And nobody knows the 65. The Inland Revenue don't look it up. So your tax coding that you get is at the same rate, unless you get in touch with them.
So what you need to do is get in touch with them and say, "Oi, sort my rate out."
Yeah, I'm
and they
65, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not getting an income of 21,800, so I need the 9,000 a year, please.
Okie doke. Well, if Mavis is listening, I bet she's scratching out a letter right now, Mary.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
Good on
you know, the trouble is, people think that everybody reads everything and knows everything, and if you haven't worked in an office, you just take it as gospel that this is right. But citizens' advice will surely tell her and put her in the right direction.
Citizens' advice will tell her, in all honesty, without wanting to hear a jeer from all over the country, the people that would tell her are the Inland Revenue. If she rang their advice line, they'll sort it out for her.
They will, but not everybody likes to deal with...
I know. But they are excellent and very, very reliable. We used to get a lad coming here every week when we were doing sort of expert phone-ins. And he used to come in and he was mustard, he was dead good. They always say that the revenue want the right amount of tax paid. They don't want too much, they don't want too little, just the right amount.
Yeah, I mean, there may be something owing to her.
You never know.
Well, I know.
Well, it's well worth it. If she gets in touch with the revenue, I'm sure they will, the Revenue Advice Service, they will guide her through it. But, Mary, that's good advice. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, then.
Kevin says, Alan, Performing Rights Society even want paying if you simply play music down the phone to callers on hold. Yes, they do, because that's regarded as public performance. The issue is the man who was on earlier, John, is he using his radio by way of public performance, or is he simply listening to the wireless? It's all down to that, isn't it, in the end? Indeed. 0161 228 2255 if you've something to say. Dave in Bury says, I've often heard you say that you'd like to retire abroad. Not for a good while yet, of course. Probably Italy. Well, it's Italy or France, to be honest, but it's one at t'other, although if I could afford it, I'm starting to look at New York. I loved it. Anyway, there you are. Italy or France. Well, go for Italy, you said, because over there they're referred to as Italians. There again, France, they're the French. Whatever you do, don't retire to the Greek island of Lesbos, because they're known as lesbians. Oh, for God's sake. You can't be too careful, can you, says Dave in Bury.
Manchester's faith, spirit, and life's difficult questions with Diana Luke.
How does this work? I don't understand.
Well, it's a whole internet site, and people go on and they take on a different character. And they have started an online church.
Do you think this is the way forward?
In the end of the day, I don't think you can beat actually meeting people face to face and being together.
Diana Luke.
Bit early in the day for the bar.
It's a little bit early at this point, but hang on, this is an international church, 24 hours round the clock, and the guys in New Zealand would be offended by that because it's just about the right time now.
Diana Luke. Talking over life's unanswered questions.
That sounds complicated.
Sunday morning from 7.
At BBC Radio Manchester.
Rita in Wigan. Hiya, Rita.
Hi, Alan.
What can we do for you?
Well, I had the problem with the PRS.
Oh, yes.
I have a wedding shop.
Yeah.
I have one girl works in one room and I work in another room. And I listen to Radio Manchester all day, so there's no really any music. As such.
Go on.
We don't play music for public.
Right.
The public cannot hear our radio except when I've just had it blasting up to listen. I received a letter on the 25th of January 2007 to say that I needed a licence. And I phoned them straight away and said, sorry, there's only one here. And Samantha Birnbaum at the head office said I didn't need a licence, and that was on the 8th of February 2007.
Well, there you are. That sounds then like precisely what John should be saying.
Yeah.
Obviously what they do then is they will log that information, and they might, because they do have these people going round, they might send someone round into the shop, and if they hear that you are playing music out into the shop for anyone who happens to be in the shop, then they will say, hang on a minute, you should have a licence, and it may give you a bit of a kicking.
Yeah.
But that's...
They were on about television licences as well, and I said, well, I'm sorry, when you're sewing on a sewing machine, you can't watch TV.
They were trying to sell you a telly licence?
Oh, yes, as well.
After that money as well?
Yes, they were after me having a television licence. I don't know a telly. We can't watch a telly while we're sewing. It's a bit dangerous.
Extraordinary. Anyway, there you are. Well, Rita, thank you very much indeed.
You're quite welcome.
And don't sew your thumb in. It's a devil's own job walking down the aisle, dragging the seamstress behind you by the thumb, you know.
Did you want the phone number of this?
No, I think he's got it. They rang him.
Oh, right.
So I think he's already got it. But did you see that in the paper this morning? A fella had the end of his finger cut off.
I believe so. And
it's
put
grown
some
back.
dust on it.
Fairy dust, they're calling it, yeah.
My husband's told me about it. I haven't seen the paper. I'm too busy working.
Well, I'm going to get some and rub it on the balls of my feet. Steady now.
Okay,
that could have gone wrong, couldn't it? I'm going to get some and rub it on the balls of my feet. What went through your minds? Put your pen down. Green and red letters on their way. The fellow was halfway to the bloody postbox. No, I'll put them on the balls of my feet because then I'd be taller. No idea what went through your mind, but it's a disgrace. You're embarrassing me now. A friend of mine, says Marion in Salford... No, not mine, I haven't got any. Marion in Salford says, a friend of mine is going to Moscow for this football final thing. 650 quid for the flight, £100 for the visa, and God knows how much for a ticket when he gets there. Fans or fanatics, she says. No, neither of those. Cretins, love, that's what they're called, cretins. It'll be on the bloody telly. Yeah, be on the telly, don't worry, get some friends round. Yeah. What you should do, instead of going there, you should get a couple of cans of really vile, disgusting lager, yeah? That's it. And maybe some vodka made in a bath down the end of your road. And then every so often, during the game, hit yourself with a truncheon. It'll be just like being there.
BBC Radio Manchester. Headline News.
A babysitter found guilty of murdering her neighbour's 2-year-old son is to face a retrial after the Court of Appeal quashed her conviction. An announcement's expected this afternoon on whether some Manchester United fans will be able to attend the Champions League final in Moscow without visas. And researchers say some computer keyboards harbour more germs than the average toilet seat. Which computing magazine says germs found include E. coli, the bacterium which causes food poisoning. Manchester's weather sunny with some showers, highs of 14 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
I only use the keyboard when my bum's really itchy.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Taking a look to the M62 across the Pennines now, and westbound traffic heading towards Manchester looking particularly slow because of a collision between 22 Rushworth Moor and 21 Milne Row involving two cars which are blocking off the middle lane of the 3-lane stretch. Now to Cheadle and the A34 Kingsway between Gatley Road on the A560 and the M60 Junction 3 for Kingsway. The lights are still out at that junction alongside 80 other sets on surrounding routes because of a power failure in the area, so do take it carefully. Thankfully, though, traffic not doing too badly on the M61, moving at a nice steady pace from what I can see between at Junction 8 at Chorley, around the Botany Bay area, all the way down to Junction 4 Farnworth on the southbound. Now, don't forget, if you can update me, maybe you've spotted something on the roads, why not get in touch hands-free on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Helping Manchester, help Manchester. BBC Radio Manchester Interaction with Linda Kay.
People can't actually get out the door when they've been a victim of terrible crime, or even the victim of a bag snatch. They all react in different ways. If you can get that person just to go to the shops, little things like that, it's wonderful. It can make a difference to their lives.
Hilary Rogers is from Victim Support, a volunteer group who last year helped over 90,000 victims of crime in Greater Manchester.
You have to be accepting of the way people are. Sometimes they just want to yell and shout about the system. Quite often, there's not a lot you can do, but they know somebody cares.
As well as helping victims of crime in their homes, they also run a witness service at the Manchester Crown Court to support people giving evidence. Anne McKeever.
We actually supported in the region of 23,000 witnesses giving evidence at court. That's an awful lot of people here in Greater Manchester. I mean, you know yourself, there's an awful lot of crime out there. But with regard to supporting victims, there is very limited help available out there. We do need more volunteers to ensure that victims and witnesses do get a fair hearing and do get support they require.
If you volunteer for Victim Support, you would get get full training and expenses. So if you're interested, call Interaction for an information pack. 0161 244 4321.
BBC Radio Manchester Interaction with CSB Broadcast. 0161 244 4321.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Page 2 of the Manchester Evening News today. United fans ripped off by £10 a mile big match taxis. And then, welcome to the City of Fun, where police have the biggest fists ever seen. Kevin O'Flynn, Moscow. And then, Graham Stringer, MP for Blakely. Moscow is not fit to hold the final, says MP. It's a bit rich from him, isn't it? He spent 16 years trying to turn it into Moscow, didn't he? He tried to turn Manchester into Moscow. You don't fool me, Stringer.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Well, he did. Don't be at it. You too can talk about the McCanns on a Guinness advert. You too can. Too can? Get it? No, I didn't say it was funny. I was just reading it out. Ben in Little Alton. Hiya, Ben.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
Not bad, thank you.
Good.
It's just a quick question regarding the radios in work. I work in a small sort of parts service department where there's 3 of us in a room. And what I normally do is download podcasts from radio shows and listen to them from the previous day.
Then you need a licence.
Is it exactly the same?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's the music, not how you come by it.
Right.
So
right.
effectively what it is, it's a licence to public perform copyright music. That's what it is. It's licensing you to perform it. Now, how you get it is not the issue. It's what you do with it when you've got it. And if you broadcast it, if you perform it, and that means just switching it on, if you perform it, you require a licence from the owners of the copyright.
Right.
All right?
Yep, no problem. I just wondered whether it was the same coming from the internet.
Sadly, yes.
All right.
All right. Good on you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Performing rights are getting a lot of publicity today. I wonder if we'll get a commission. I didn't think so either. Kevin says, saying I listened to Allan Beswick and he told me to do it won't wash. Insanity is a reason for doing it, not an excuse. Hang on a minute, he's having a go at me there. He is, isn't he? He's having a go at me. And then the kids out of school for 2 days. You remember, now who was it? Keith from Lanzarote. Yeah. He was wondering whether the teachers could be prosecuted for keeping the kids off school when they were on strike for 2 days. Well, I think they were on a strike for 1, but there you are. Well, Gordon says, it's not, strictly speaking, true, as long as you've got a good argument to remove your child from school. You see? Heads actually allow holiday breaks during school time, although there has been a campaign against that of late, but yes, they do sometimes. And then he says, may I also remind you of the thousands that leave every January for a month or so to be in the Indian subcontinent. Well, that's true. There's no arguing with it. He speak only the truth. They do. Loads of them do. 0161 228 2255. You want to join us? That's fine. Just pick up your phone and do it. Yeah. Or you can email radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk and/or you can text 07786 206 951. Hundreds of health workers. Hundreds. I don't know how true that is. I'm just being told. Hundreds of health workers and users of the service and trade unions and supporters are going to lobby Parliament next Wednesday, the 7th of May, in support of Karen Reisman. You remember Karen? She was the nurse and trade unionist. Karen was sacked by Manchester Mental Health Trust after speaking out against cuts and privatisation. Her case has caused huge concerns about health workers' rights to speak out, says this press release. Her trust was 173rd out of 175 mental health services in the country. And Unison is calling for MPs to support an early day motion put down by John Leach, MP of this parish. The early day motion states that this House notes with concern the sacking of Karen Reisman, senior practitioner nurse from the Manchester Mental Health and Social Care Trust. It is concerned that she was unjustifiably dismissed for speaking out against proposed changes to services which many staff believe would result in a worse service to patients. It goes on beyond that, but there you are. If you're interested in that, then you are now informed of it. I'm not sure what good it'll do you, but I just give the information out. Dave in Northwich says there's a picture of a house on page 71 of the Daily Mail. In itself, that's not interesting, is it, really? Page 71. How many pages does the Daily Mail have? How much crap can you get in one day? Daily Mail, there you are. How many pages do... 96? And 96 pages in the Daily Mail? God almighty. Page 71. That's next to the telly. Well, there's 2 hours. Oh, it's... Oh, right. Oh, hang on. A snapshot of Britain that hasn't changed since 1913. Further to the new book, depicting Britain in colour with all these historical pictures, the photograph showing a suburban street cleaner, captioned, "Sweeping change," an early colour photograph taken in 1913 of a London residential street, is almost certainly not of a London location, but a residential street in Folkestone in Kent. I don't care about that bit. Anyway, there we are. And there's the house. And... well, there's a bit of it hiding behind the tree, but it does look the same. It looks almost identical. And there's the truth of it. Yeah. The only thing missing is the street sign, and there is, of course, the ubiquitous give way sign, which, well, can't quite see the markings on the road, but it looks like a give way sign to me. That's there, which wasn't there in 1913. But everything else looks the same. Even the pillar box, with the telephone exchange box next to it. Well, there you are. So what point you're making now I've seen it? He wants to know what the green thing is next to the phone box. It's a good question. And I don't know the answer to it. It's not likely to be a telephone exchange box, is it? You know that box, when they open it, it's just got millions of wires in it that no one understands. And then a bloke builds a little tent over it and sits there, presumably listening to the radio. He always has headphones on. I don't know what it is. No, it's not a wheelie bin. No, it isn't a wheelie bin. It's not that. I don't know what it is. Have you any idea? A piece of street furniture of 1913. Have you got a copy of the Daily Mail to hand? Then shame on you for a start. But if you have, then have a look at page 71, because there's a photograph and there's a gas lamp. It might be the regulator for the gas. I don't mean a bloke in a peak cap. Gas has to be regulated, otherwise it just comes out at all sorts of speeds. So that might be the regulator. It might not, like, I'm just guessing. But it might be the regulator. So there'd be that. What else it could be? I've no idea. As I say, that's gone in the new photograph, the modern photograph, that's gone. But just a little further up the road, maybe, I don't know, a metre or so, there's a big grey box, which is almost certain. I think it's Doctor Who. It's Doctor Who. In his younger day, when he didn't need a box as big as a TARDIS. Anyway, just further up, there's a telephone exchange, stack of wires and connectors and stuff box. But it won't be that. No. I don't know what it is. It looks like it's got an handle on it. If you look to the left, it looks like it's got If you've not got a copy of the Daily Mail, this is pretty boring. Actually, I've thought it through, and I have got a copy of the Mail. And it's still pretty boring. I'm more interested in the Fukang Rock. Yeah, which is not a tune by any means. No, the Fukang Rock. You can imagine why I liked it. I like anything with rock in it. Yeah, except music. I don't like rock music, obviously. That's far too loud, unless it's the Rolling Stones played gently. If that's not a contradiction, that's the wrong paper. It's the wrong paper, Gromit. I want a mirror. I started with this, and I never got round to it. It looks like a leopard. It's the oldest rock in the solar system at more than 438 million years old. How do they know? How do they know that? 438 million... No. Now, listen. If I wanted to measure something, whatever it was, I would first of all have to have somewhere to start from, wouldn't I? Exactly. So you and me, if we wanted to measure our height... Now, if we were French, we'd measure it in metres and divisions thereof, because the French invented the metric... Well, it's not absolutely certain, but it's thought that the French invented the metric system all those years ago, right? I know that because it was on... You know her with a face stretched almost to ripping? That Anne Robinson woman. With all them fat people she has, fat and thick. It's one of the rules of being on it. One of the fat and thick people on it. Yeah, there's 15 to 1, that's it. Oh, no, that's him, that's the jock bloke, innit? Anyway, you know what I mean. Doesn't matter, does it? Winner takes all. What's it called? Who cares? Anyway, it was on last night. I watched it. So the French invented it. If it was you and I... measuring ourselves, we do it in feet and inches, because that's how we measure. But before we can do that, we have to establish the base, as in inch or foot. I think a foot was based on the foot, probably, and the inch was based on your thumb, and the yard was the distance from the tip of your fingers to the end of your nose, when your arm's outstretched. So, you know, we've got all... And then there's the what is it? The chain... and the furlong. They only use them in racing now, and all them. But you have to have a base, you have to have something to start from. Well, if you're saying that this lump of rock from the solar system is more than 438 million years old, how do you know? How can you know that? You can't, can you? Because you're counting backwards to a time when we didn't exist. So it's impossible. Anyway, they're selling it. It's called the Fukang meter. Because when it landed in China, somebody went, "Oh, my God, look at that meter in Fukang." That's what we'll call it. It was found in 2000, and it's being sold by Marvin Kilgore at Bonham's Auctioneers in New York. What would you do with it? I mean, if you bought it for all that money, what would you then do with it? What's that in the corner? It's the oldest rock in the world. In fact, I've had an idea. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the garden centre, because they sell big lumps of rock for rockeries, and I'm going to buy it because it's dear, to be honest, about 30 quid. But I'm going to buy a big lump of rock, and then I'm going to put it in the corner of our lounge, and when people come in and say, "What are you doing with a big lump of rock?" I'll say, "It's worth 200 million, that's the Fukang rock." And they'll say, "You must be joking." And no, it is, it's the Fukang. They won't know. How will they know? Well, what do you mean, the Fukang rock? So it fell out of the sky in China. They found it in 2000. How old is it? 438 million years. Bloody hell. It is. How can they say it's not? Who can gainsay my tale? I'm going to do it. It'll be a tourist attraction. Well, not tourist, not a tourist in the house, but it'll be a feature. When I come to sell the house, why have you got a big lump of rock in the corner? It's a Fukang rock. I'm taking it with me. I'm not leaving that. You can have the light bulbs, but I'm not leaving it. People don't leave the light bulbs, do they, when they flit? Why not? How much are light bulbs, for crying out loud? How much are light? They're not dear, are they? Yeah, could you imagine? Could you imagine moving into a house and nobody's left any light bulb? When we moved in, we had all the light bulbs. They're all there. They left them all. Yeah. Anyway, there you are. And they've got a picture here of the cellar mum, Mrs. Fritz, or is it Ms? And, oh, God, she does. She looks 65, and she's only 42. A source who helped draw the impression. Now, what does that mean, draw the impression? Does that mean he saw her, and this is what he drew? Or is it he's just gone back to the most recent photograph anyone's got of her, which is 1981, and then sort of done a photo fit job on that? Because doesn't really cut it, does it? If that's what they've done. There's a few showing the photo, but as I say, doesn't really... And the kids talking growls and noises. They don't actually have language. I mean, out of every cloud, or in every cloud, there is a silver lining of sorts. And it's a phenomenal... If it were possible, it would be a phenomenal study for somebody, psychologist or what have you, to work out the kind of how we as humans develop as a species, but also as individuals, how we develop, where we do our learning. These kids will not have been given any kind of formal education. Will they be able to count? Will they be able to read? Will they be able to write? My suspicion is not. They're not even able to communicate in sentences. They can if they really, really concentrate, but they cannot. Generally, they don't. And the difference, they say, don't they, the difference between us and the rest of the animal world, the other species on Earth, is this hyper-communication system we've got called speech, which is, again, an extent of the deductive ability that we have. No other animals have that. We have it, they have not. Whether we have it because it is developed into us or not, I don't know. But it would make a fascinating PhD for somebody. I bet they're queuing up already. And apparently the magician David Blaine held his breath for 17 minutes. Which is about 3 hours short as far as I can see.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Headline News. A babysitter found guilty of murdering her neighbour's 2-year-old son is to face a retrial after the Court of Appeal quashed her conviction. An announcement's expected this afternoon on whether some Manchester United fans will be able to attend the Champions League final in Moscow without visas. And researchers say some computer keyboards harbour more germs than the average toilet seat, which Computing magazine says germs found include the bacterium which causes food poisoning. Manchester's weather sunny, some showers, highs of 14 Celsius. I'm Rachel Ferguson.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
A collision on the M62 westbound heading towards Manchester is causing problems for motorists at the moment, travelling between junction 22 Rushworth Moor and 21 at Mill Row. During this accident, some debris was deposited on the carriageway alongside a spillage of fuel as well. Now, that accident was involving 3 cars and a lorry, and the lanes affected are the inside and middle lanes of the 3. Now, the police and the highways are in attendance at the scene. Do take care if you're travelling along that part of the motorway. In Cheadle, the lights are out on Kingsway on the A34 between Gatley Road on the A560 and Junction 3 at Kingsway. All the lights along Kingsway are currently out of order, as well as around 80 other sets of traffic lights on surrounding routes because of a power failure in the area. Now, don't forget, of course, if you're using cross-country services this weekend, it's a revised service in operation between Manchester Piccadilly and Stafford until Sunday. Now, don't forget, if you'd like more information or you spotted a problem, why not let us know about it by calling in hands-free 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
I used to hate cross-country. Our teacher only made her do it if it were raining.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Well, Manchester City goalkeeper Andreas Isaksson has yet again reiterated his desire to leave Eastlands. The Swede has been unable to displace Joe Hart this season and believes a move is essential to keep his place in the national squad. Meanwhile, Sven-Göran Eriksson is thought to have stopped a potential player boycott at Manchester City. Senior players are believed to have offered to sign a letter saying they won't participate in the club's end-of-season tour to the Far East without their manager. Eriksson's almost certain to be sacked after just 1 year in charge at Eastlands. Well, Nicky Butt says he's delighted his former teammates have made it through to the Champions League final in Moscow. The midfielder, now at Newcastle, was part of the United side which won the competition 9 years ago. He says the win over Barcelona was well deserved.
I think it's great for them, obviously. We've had lots of chances over the years in semi-finals and not done as well as we should have done, and it was a great performance by them against a great team, and good luck to them. They deserve it, and they've got a great chance of winning a double now.
Well, Bolton will be hoping to take a huge step towards securing their Premier League status with victory over Sunderland at the Reebok on Saturday. Striker Kevin Davis will be available after suspension and recovering from a broken arm. Boss Gary Megson is pleased to have him back.
Kevin's an important member of the squad and also of the more so of the team, but in the period where we were going to, the pundits would tell you really struggle because Kevin's not there. We took 4 points away from home, which we haven't done all season. So a lot of people have rolled the sleeves up and taken over the mantle from Kevin. But it'll be nice to have him back.
Wigan need 2 points from their last 2 games of the season to secure Premier League status. Latics frontman Marcus Bent expects a tough test on Saturday against an Aston Villa side fighting for a European spot.
All round the field they've got goals. Young midfield, the 2 strikers. So they're a good side, good up and coming side. It's going to be a very hard game, especially away from home. But we're strong, physically strong, mentally strong. And just need this week to get the confidence back to where it should be.
Well, tonight Rangers fly the British flag in Europe. They go into the second leg of their UEFA Cup semi-final against Fiorentina with captain Barry Ferguson back from suspension. That's goalless from the first leg. Oldham Athletic manager John Sheridan is hoping goalkeeper Mark Crosley and striker Andy Liddell will sign new deals at Boundary Park. Both players have been offered new contracts. Well, Leeds will find out the result of their appeal against the 15-point deduction from the Football League today. The 3-man arbitration panel could back the ruling, or if they find the penalty unlawful, they could reinstate all 15 points. Leeds have secured a playoff spot, but if all the points are reinstated, they would go up automatically. That decision is expected at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Well, it's make or break time for Sale Sharks in the Premiership with just 2 games to play, but it's great news on the injury front. Sebastian Chabal and Jason White will both return for Sunday's game with Harlequins. Both players missed last week's European Challenge Cup semi-final defeat at Bath. However, top try scorer Oriel Ripple is out with a broken arm. Lancashire manager Mike Watkinson says he wouldn't have replaced Brad Hodge with just anyone. He secured the services of Pakistan batsman Mohammad Youssef, whilst Hodge is away playing in the Indian Premier League. Youssef is expected to make his debut this Sunday against Durham in the Friends Provident Trophy, and Watkinson says he comes highly recommended.
We weren't interested in bringing an average player in. I had a chat to a few of the guys, and Fred, I know, has bowled at him on a number of occasions, reckons he's one of the best players he's bowled at, and that's a good rap for him, really.
Well, meanwhile, Lancs are 74 for 2 at lunch against Durham University at the racecourse. New signing Francois du Plessis is making his debut. He's 25 not out. Mark Chilton was out for 12. Mal Loy made 1. And finally, Ronnie O'Sullivan will renew his rivalry with the 7-times winner Stephen Hendry in the semi-finals of the World Snooker Championship in Sheffield. That gets underway at 2 o'clock. And tonight at the Crucible, Joe Perry takes on Ali Carter.
My name is Sam Tyler.
No, it's not. It's Dave Ward.
My name is Dave Ward. I had an accident.
Did it affect your voice? Honestly, this is what it's like.
My name is Dave Ward.
Oh, thank goodness you've remembered that much. Yeah. We're on a winner here.
I had an accident. I woke up in 1973.
And you have never moved from that year.
Am I mad? Yeah. In a coma. Or back in time.
Just like the old days, me and you together.
Well, whatever happened, it's like I've landed on a different planet.
Yeah, Planet Dave Ward. You were always happiest there.
Holiday Monday on BBC Radio Manchester.
Becky Want and Dave Ward back together again from 10.
Are you sure it's not me, Dave Ward, and you, Becky Want? Now listen, I want you to make a note of this. That's all I'm saying. I'm not encouraging anything, I'm just saying make a note of it. A safety campaigner blasted a passenger today who bared his bottom at a speed camera from the front seat of a car. The man showed his disrespect for the law on the A1171 Dudley Lane in Cramlington, North Tyneside, whilst he was being driven in a black BMW X5. The mooning passenger pushed his buttocks against the windscreen and was scanned. He was snapped as the powerful motor passed a mobile speed camera last month. The driver, who appeared to be laughing, will not face prosecution because no driving offence was committed. Now, we do get a lot of complaints on this programme about speed and cameras and stuff. I read somewhere today that traffic tickets, speeding, parking and all that, turn over 800 million quid a year. So if you're one of those people who is offended by the endless growth of the number of speed cameras in our society, then
you may well be able to express it, and it would appear that you're not committing if you're driving and you put your bum on the window, obviously that's not good, even if you're in reverse. But if your passenger does, it seems it's not an offence. No. I've got nothing else to say. I don't want to encourage anything. I certainly don't want to discourage it, and I should carry some Windoline with you when it's done, because you really don't want that on your window, but there you are. And most people just have a nodding doll in the front. Anyway, Brian from Worsley. Hiya, Brian.
Hi, mate. How are you?
I'm all right.
Good. Glad to hear it. Now, I know you're not a great football fan, but I just want to make a point, which has probably been made before, that the footballing authorities don't seem to give two hoots about the ordinary fan. Because every time there's a European competition like this, they always pick the ground first. Now, why on earth can they not wait to see who gets in the final, or even at the semi-final stage, and pick the ground appropriately so the fans don't have to travel and pay £1,000 maybe just to watch a football match?
Because it takes a lot of organising. You imagine if they decided, well, yesterday, because that's the first we knew that where both teams were going.
Mm-hmm.
You imagine, right, OK, where should we have it then? Moscow. Or Manchester. How are you going to get all the hotel rooms and all of that? How are you going to have everything in situ for it? It's not easy. The logistics of it are massive. And so they do it. And they decide, the European Football Association allocate it. I believe this was allocated to Moscow a decade ago. A decade ago. They've been waiting for it for 10 years and planning for it for 10 years. So I think it's one of those things where they say, well, it doesn't matter who's in the final. The final isn't just for the fans of those two teams. The final is for everyone in Europe who's interested in football.
Probably true, but I think
so. We'll have it. We'll go on.
Yeah, most of the fans that will be there will be Chelsea and Man United, I would think.
Well, that is true, but most of the people watching it won't be there. 20 or 30 million people will watch it, and they'll be in Spain and Czechoslovakia and Italy and France and Ireland. Scotland might even look if they've got electric. Have they got electric there? Wales. All those other backward places that you try not to think of too often will be watching it. So it's the European final. So it's for everyone who's interested in football in Europe.
Like, there were more Man United supporters in the Far East watching it than there will be in England, possibly.
I'm not about to get in that argument. You're not trapping me, pal. I've got to live round here.
So do I. I don't live far from you, actually.
Yeah, well, you know, well, I'm moving. Straight away. I'm flitting on the basis that could keep the rates down, if nothing else.
Well,
anyway.
it might increase my house price if you move, I don't know.
Yeah, every chance. Well, the only thing that does in the next 2 years, let me tell you.
No,
but yeah, that's what it's about, isn't it? You know,
right.
It's
I'm
about...
sure, though, that they could, with a little... You know, if they would put their minds to it, they could organise something a little closer
Well, yeah,
to
but
home.
if they did that, how often do you think it'd be in Moscow? Never.
Well, I mean,
never.
It's
how often would it?
Footballing,
well, quite.
high spot, is it? You know.
But it might be if they have the final there. More and more people might be interested. I was listening. What was that? Who was it the other day? I was listening to somebody going on about it before Liverpool played Chelsea. And people were saying that in Moscow they're hoping that Chelsea win because it's owned by a Muscovite, and there's a Russian international plays for them. The only person
that might have had something to do with it.
Well, they wouldn't have known that then, because it was 10 years ago. I don't think he owned it then, and if so, the bloke who's the Russian international wasn't playing for him. He was probably about 11. So it's to have the fun. It's sharing it out instead of letting the winners keep it all the time.
Well, I wasn't suggesting play at Old Trafford or Stamford Bridge.
No, indeed.
Possibly somewhere in France. There are big stadiums in France that could have accommodated
Well,
it.
yes, there are, but as I say, if you did it that way, then the consequence would be that it would never be in these. I don't mean smaller nations, but smaller footballing nations. Smaller in Moscow wouldn't get it for the next 40 years, would they?
I mean, how would you feel if Warrington were playing St. Helens, you know, in Moscow?
Well,
in the final.
Well, frankly, I'd feel the same as I feel now. We're going to get stuffed. But we do that. You pick a bad weekend to ask me that, because all the rugby league games taking place this weekend take place in Cardiff.
Oh, is it that weekend?
Yeah, and like, how many Welsh people will be there? There won't be a Yakidar in the place.
Indeed not. They're all the union, aren't they?
Well, they are, yeah, because they're weird. But there's going to be all these people wanting them out of the car. Hey, up, lad, hey, where's game on here? Where's game? Hello, boy. How are you? Would you like to buy an elephant? You know, all that's going to be going. Pardon?
Do they count the sheep that going?
The sheep will be going, otherwise there's no sex for you. Have a good day, Brian. Cheers, mate. Bye-bye now. I think they're trying to export the game to Wales. I'd far sooner export Wales to Ireland. Ian, in Sale, how are you doing?
Don't you think our government, though, if this had happened, would have helped with these visas? I mean, they say it takes...
You don't need a visa, let anyone in.
No, I'm talking about going to Moscow.
Well, they can't help, they don't issue them.
I thought them... we issue them, do we?
Well, no, we... If people are coming to Britain...
Yeah.
We issue a visa to them if they require it. Some countries do, some don't.
So the Russians would issue them, would they?
Yeah, it's a visa. It's permission to enter their country.
Yeah. What I was going to say was, I don't know if you have a bad morning and you come home and curse, but three particular things that...
I have a bad morning and come on here and curse.
Three particular things that have been winding me up this morning.
Go on, then.
Trolley people. You know, these people have these tow-about shopping bags, and they take great delight in knocking your feet from under you.
Yeah.
And then, well, you've just been doing it, but I'm not having a go at you. Train, football, and car anoraks. You know, people who, if you say about a car, that's a 6-cylinder throbbing what's it, they say, oh, no, it's a 4-cylinder throbbing what's it, you know. Yeah. And then...
Can I just say at this point, I drive a Fiesta.
Yeah.
My interest in cars ends at the chair. But
exactly. If I put the key in and it goes, that's the limit.
That'll do me, yeah. That's it.
Yeah, and then of course the favourite one, yobs and hoodies, who take great delight in forcing you off the pavement and generally not being very pleasant. But again, I think it's the press that are to blame, because I mean, 95% of kids are okay, aren't they?
Absolutely so.
It's just the very, very small minority. Because I've had a lot of vandalism to my windows, and I was getting quite twitchy about it. And then in my church mag, a chap from Slovakia or somewhere moved on to the local council estate, and he's had a curbstone through his window. You know, so I mean, because of his race or whatever you call it, you know. I mean, people can be so intolerant, can't they?
They can indeed. But you're quite intolerant of trolley people and football talkers.
Well, yes, I am. Actually,
hoist by one's own, I think, is the phrase here.
With the trolley people, I'm going to carry a spanner and undo the wheels, you know.
Yeah, carry a stick and beat them. It's all they deserve. Especially them bloody old ladies with them straw ones.
Yeah.
You know, a little straw one.
Oh, they rip holes in your legs.
I know they do. They have little scratchy bits on. They were wondering about like bloody Bodicea. Get out of here, woman. What's the matter with you?
And then the other one is, you go in the shop and there's a huge queue, and they come in and they say, do you mind if I go to the front? Yes.
I do mind, yes. You've got all bloody day. What have you got? You've got nothing to do, woman. Yeah. What are you doing in a shop anyway? I've seen the pension. You can't afford to go in shops.
Anyhow, at least it's sunny, Alan.
Absolutely. Not in here, it's not. Unless it's my disposition.
Cheers, have a good weekend.
And yourself, sir. It's not started yet. I'm back here tonight. 10 o'clock tonight, election programme. Yeah, find out who won. Find out who cares. That'll be me. Professor John Tong, who's a professor of politickies. He knows loads of stuff. This story about keyboards and how mucky they are. Gordon says, is it me, or am I the only one that doesn't eat off his keyboard? It's a good question. You can't fight the good stuff. Yeah. Can you? You can't. Kevin, 650 quid for a flight, £100 for a visa to watch football? What? Well, you've got to spend the 2% you saved on income tax somewhere. I hear echoes, says Kevin, of a fool and his money. Well, I've been trying to talk our boss into letting me go, but that doesn't count, does it? No, it doesn't count, because that's just me trying to blag a freebie. And I'll have you know, I'm making absolutely no progress whatsoever. He's as tight as a duck's bum. He wouldn't give a bloody door a bang, I'm telling you. He thinks the licence payers give a toss. He does. I said, look,
I'll go to Moscow. I'll put myself out. You offer to sacrifice yourself. I know it's an inconvenient journey, and I know because when I went to Las Vegas, I was up all night. I won't mind. I'm prepared to make these sacrifices. Nothing. That's what I got back. Nothing. That tight wad. God Almighty! I remember when the BBC had a bit of class. And we did stuff like that. It should be sending... No, I don't give a... Yes, I know somebody else could go. Screw them, that's what I say. I was fighting for me. As one does. Not a bean, not a sausage. An outrage and a scandal. I'm the perfect man because I wouldn't be there falling over and fawning about all this football crap. I'd be able to tell you about the underground and the wonderful stations and them big black cars with machine guns on the front. Yeah! Actually, now I think of it, there'd be a fair chance of me not coming back, wouldn't there? I might get arrested. Anyway, the Fu-Tang Rock. Ted wins the prize. Ted in Moston, who's an absolute George Formby fan, has written me a little ditty with my little stick of Fu-Tang Rock. Along the promenade I stroll. It may be ancient, but I never complain. It's nice to have a look at it now and again. Ted, you win the prize today without a shadow of a doubt. Fu-Tang Rock. $2.8 million for a dirty great big lump of rock. You can't even lick it. Mind you, it's probably cleaner than your keyboard. See you tonight or tomorrow. Ta-ra now.
Join me, Diana Luke, as we discuss the growing interest in cyber faith this Sunday from 7 on BBC Radio Manchester.